Holy smokes. Finish in a basement, little drywalling. But anyways, that's not what we're here to talk about. Distraction. Do you pass distraction on to your kids? Funny how you see one thing in real life and then you pick up on it in other avenues, discussions and other media sources. It kind of becomes in your brain. That's what happened to me recently. We were at an event, and the point of being at this event was to support the kids that are at the event. Okay, where there's groups of people, groups of adults. We're watching our kids participate in this activity, and that's a whole thing in itself, you know, supporting your kid. So you're watching them, well, they're watching us. Well, what do they see? This is what they see back. You know, nobody's even paying attention, right? I mean, 90% of the parents don't even watch, right? They dump them off and they take off. But so that's fine for these older kids. They're busy. Now, in the crowd is a bunch of younger kids. And the younger kids, they all have a device. Every single one of them. And I mean little kids, okay? 1, 2 years old. They are glued to a screen. Paw Patrol. The kid sitting in front of me was playing a video game. Well, I don't think it may be appropriate for adults. Violent, you know? I mean, what the heck's going on? This kid, he's dressed up in a Paw Patrol snowsuit. Meanwhile, he's got a $1,000 iPad playing Call of Duty or something. Like, what the heck's going on here? Should you give your kids access to a screen? And I don't mean just access, but I mean actively, here you go, this is my password, Bob's your uncle. I saw a Jordan Peterson clip, you know, in the days after this, and I thought, oh, that's kind of funny, I would see this. And, you know, the gist, and I could be misinterpreting what he said, you're robbing a child's ability to kind of deal with that mental space where maybe nothing's going on. You know, robbing them of their imagination, active play, this kind of thing. You're filling that void with a stimuli from a screen that can't be reproduced in the world. It can't be. I mean, that you imagine... You show the one little girl there, she's scrolling TikTok, if you can imagine this. I mean, she's not even old enough to form a whole sentence, and, you know, she's wearing pink snow boots. TikTok. Well, she didn't learn that on her own. Somebody gave it to her. The stimulation, the hit of dopamine that's feeding into a tiny toddler child, this is never going to be reproduced. What are they going to strive for in life? What are they going to get out of life after being exposed to that? So anyways, he goes on to say that that's basically, you know, you're robbing these kids' developmental capacity by providing a stimuli that they can never reproduce naturally through actual experience. And you create a social mess. They don't communicate well. They don't, you know, and you see it. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure there was always weird kids, but every once in a while you're like, what the heck's going on here, you know? How old's that kid? 5? Like, oh, actually, no, he's 15. Like, holy shit. You know, you can't even hold a conversation. So do you give your child access to this? I don't think so. I mean, we don't. I mean, it's a struggle for us, I think, modern day to set an example. You know, for example, I make these videos so it can considerable amount of time into editing and actually taking time to film and do all these kind of things. I mean, certainly that the kids see me doing that. So, you know, you have to explain that as a function of it's something constructive. You know, I have a desire to learn about film, and I like the gear, and I like the thought process into what I'm going to do. And I keep notes. I have different notebooks for YouTube video ideas. And then if we're doing something in my other videos, or we're doing, you know, more constructive things, you know, doing something with a chainsaw or fixing or building something, well, then you shut the camera off and you involve them in that activity, and you move away from your own hobby, not just, here you go, shh, don't bother me. It happens. I mean, I was exposed to a television when I was a kid. I mean, we had 2 channels when it started out. There wasn't too much to be exposed to. And, you know, your parents would let you wander into it on a Saturday morning maybe, and maybe you'd watch a little bit too much TV, and then they'd kick you out, you know. So we try to set that same example, you know, moderated You certainly don't just watch whatever the heck you want. You imagine just letting a little kid, 5, 6 years old, there's YouTube, good luck. And I don't mean you two kids, I just mean, ta-da, out into the, that's not good. That can't be good. I mean, you're learning stuff that you have no capacity to process, and never mind what they're gonna access to, you know, when they get older, you know. Do you know what I'm saying? Holy snikes. I remember we had a family computer, and I can distinctly remember the first time that my parents, because kids think they're sneaky, right? You know, my parents had discovered that, oh, big surprise, a young man learned that you could see boobies on the internet. Well, holy snikes, I remember the world crashed, you know, like there was rules, you know? I mean, so anyways, that's more a humorous side of things, but little kids with screens, video games, all this kind of thing. I mean, is that, are you raising a kid, or are you distracting a kid by just removing them as a nuisance? And if you view your kids that way, that you're just trying to get rid of them, well, then maybe you've lost your path some way. And maybe not everybody has kids on purpose, but I don't think it's appropriate. I agree with Mr. Peterson there. You are providing a set of circumstances that they'll never be able to recreate, and it'll lead to confusion, it'll lead to isolation, and maybe a little bit of struggle in society as a whole. Making friends, building relationships, interacting in any sort of romantic relationship, because what they saw or what they've been exposed to. It'd be like, you know, you owned a truck and that truck would only go in second gear. I mean, it still gets around and it's functional sort of, but it doesn't reach its full potential. You see everybody else driving around and going in reverse, and you're like, man, I wish I could do that. Well, there you go. Maybe that's what you're creating. The kid's gonna be stuck second gear. Maybe that's generous. Might be stuck in first gear, low range, that kid forever. That sounds like I'm just making stuff up. That could be. Could be. But anyways, back to the depths of the basement. Drywall isn't going to sand itself. What is it? Money doesn't grow on trees. 57 other things dads say. What a glorious stage of life, eh? You just say stuff. Oh, that's just dad talking. Don't worry about it. Anyways, as always, we'll catch you on the next adventure. And well, what's that going to entail? You just never know.